Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat about what's happening around Spain today while I go for a drive to the other side of the city where I'm living here. So, venga, vámonos. Now, on my way to the other side of the city where I'm living here, got a few things to do. It being Tuesday, of course, my day for running errands, and we'll have a bit of a chat while I'm out and about. A few things have caught my attention, and we'll talk about those in a minute. As you can see, it's a bit overcast today. It's been quite windy and wet lately, but good news because we need the rain, let's be honest. We've been having very dry weather for the last few months. Hasn't rained a lot in this part of Spain, and I've also seen people in other parts of the country also saying that it is very, very dry. So we need the rain, we need the wet weather in order to fill those dams. Otherwise, we are going to have water restrictions, and that's the last thing that we need at the moment, water restrictions with all of the other problems that we have at the moment. Now, the Spanish government, the coalition government between the PSOE and Podemos, having a bit of a rough time lately. Podemos is not happy that Spain sent weapons to Ukraine, and a few ministers in the government have manifested their dislike, let's say, of Pedro Sanchez's actions. Yesterday, one of the ministers called the PSOE a party of war for them sending those weapons to the Ukraine. So divisions in the government again, and I think Podemos even said that they're threatening Pedro Sanchez to break the coalition. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks regarding this political spat between those two left-wing parties. Spain has also been put on the enemy list by Vladimir Putin. All of the countries that are on his list of enemies at the moment, all of the European Union, the United States, Australia, all of the countries that are opposing his invasion of Ukraine. So another milestone for the government, getting on that list of enemy countries for the Russian Federation. Or I think that's what they call it, the Russian Federation. So Spain on the list of enemies. But to be honest, I don't think the government's too worried about that because, as we said, every other country in Europe is on that list. But reading some fairly worrying articles in the press here in recent times. There was one in the paper yesterday about what would happen if Madrid suffers a nuclear attack. So a bit worried about that. Because as we know, Mr. Putin has threatened some countries with nuclear weapons. And it reminds me of the good old days of the Cold War when growing up in Australia, we constantly seemed to have these threat of nuclear war back in the 1980s when I was just a young fella down there in Australia growing up. And unfortunately, history repeating itself again. And my son, more or less the same age, having to worry about these threats. Now, there's an update on the former king saga, Juan Carlos I, and his Abu Dhabi adventure. He's come out and said that he's going to establish his permanent residence in Abu Dhabi. He's not planning on coming back to Spain to live permanently, but he says he is going to visit the country frequently. So we'll see how often Juan Carlos does get back here to Spain in coming months and years. And of course, as we know, he's been involved in various scandals over the last couple of years that led him to leave the country, to move to Abu Dhabi. Some people called it a forced exile. Some people called it a self-imposed exile. I'm not going to get into the semantics of it, but he was obviously not comfortable living in Spain, and I'm sure that his son, King Felipe, was not comfortable with him living here either. So on the plane he got off to Abu Dhabi and has been living, I imagine, a fairly luxurious life in that part of the world, because as we know, kings and former kings, I imagine, in Abu Dhabi live very, very well. So no plans for Juan Carlos to establish permanent residence again in this country, at least while Podemos is in the government, I imagine. If things change in the next elections and we get a more pro-royalty or pro-monarch political party, then things might change. But if Podemos continues in the government, don't think they will, but if they do, I don't see Juan Carlos coming back to Spain to live permanently. So an update on Juan Carlos. Now, another thing in the headlines at the moment is the use of masks indoors. As we know, the government has been saying that possibly in the next couple of weeks they will remove the indoor mask wearing mandate. And for a lot of people, it's about time. People are sick and tired of having to wear masks. And as we saw yesterday, Spain in particular has had a love-hate affair with face masks during the pandemic. At the beginning, there weren't any, so we were recommended against wearing them. And all of a sudden, they became abundant, so we were forced to wear them in every circumstance, whether indoors or out. Didn't matter if you were walking in the mountains, you still had to wear a mask. Very strange rule, in my opinion. So people are a little bit fed up with masks, and it's going to come down to personal choice, which I'm sure, as I said, a lot of people are happy with, rather than that obligation to put it on. If you go into a supermarket and you want to wear a mask, no problems. If you don't have to. It is entirely up to you. So we'll see if that mask mandate does change in coming weeks or coming days. I don't know. Some people are saying around Easter time, which I think is mid next month, more or less. Some people are saying maybe it will even be this week. I don't know. I think that would be a little bit too soon. So don't really know exactly when it's going to happen, but hopefully it will happen soon. Because as I said, I think people need to be able to have the choice to wear a mask or not in indoor public spaces like supermarkets, cinemas, shopping centres and the like. So we'll see. Now I'm coming up here to my destination. It's up here on the left. So I'll wrap the first part of this video up and go and do what I have to do, and then pick it up again when I'm done. Alright, so I've done what I needed to do there in that shopping centre. It was a shop that I had to go to, so managed to get what I needed. Now the other thing in the headlines today, energy prices, very, very high. We've been talking about this for the last year or so now, and I remember when people were saying that 200 euros per kilowatt hour was a lot, and now it is over the 500 mark. So very, very expensive electricity at the moment, and gas prices are also very, very high. I heard the French president came out this morning and said that people need to turn their central heating down, maybe 1 or 2 degrees, in order to save gas. So thanks for that advice, Mr. Macron. I'm sure plenty of people will heed your advice and turn down their heating. Better to be cold than have high energy bills. But it is a definite worry for people's back pockets in this country. Increasing energy prices, not only gas and electricity, but also at the Bowser as well. People are saying that it's not going to be long before regular fuel prices are over the €2 mark. I think premium fuel the other day hit €2 in some parts of the country. The 98 unleaded version, 2 versions here, 95 and 98 octanes, I think. And in some parts of the country, as I said, hitting that €2 mark. So people are on the lookout for cheap fuel stations. I know I certainly am. And it's also International Women's Day today. So a big shout out to all the ladies out there, all of the women who are celebrating the day. Here in Spain, it's always a big day, of course. There's normally a big rally in the cities around the country. No doubt today that will also be the case. and all of the Podemos ministers, I imagine, will be frontline in those demonstrations and rallies for equal rights for ladies. On this channel, the female percentage is about 30%, and the good news is that I've managed to line up a few female contributors. Somebody said that there's only male contributors on this channel, so I put the word out and a few people responded, so it's just a question of organising that. A couple of ladies in the United States and one lady in Spain, so we'll see what happens there. The people in the States, it's just a question of organising the time difference, which as we know can be a bit of a problem, so I'll look into that as well, but hopefully get a female point of view up on the channel as soon as possible. And the final thing I'm going to talk about today is the political party Vox. Somebody asked the question, why is Vox considered an extreme right party? Why do they use the word extreme right to classify Vox? Well, the fact of the matter is that they are on the far right side of the political spectrum. And whether you use the term extreme, far, or hard, you could use all of those words to sum up a political party like Vox because of some of the policies that they have. A lot of the political groups here in Spain are in the middle, and there are a couple that are on the extremes of the political spectrum. It doesn't mean that they are extreme right, like some of the more radical political parties or political movements in the past, but they are definitely right of right, let's say. You'll hear a lot of words used to sum them up, especially when you listen to the extreme left, because remember that Podemos is a hard left or a far left or an extreme left, if you like, political party. That's their ideas. And Vox is on the other side of that political spectrum. And it seems that Spain can't shake that ideological war that led it to a civil war around 80 or 90 years ago. Still prominent today, that ideological point of view, still quite strong here in Spain. But anyway, can be a problem for the country when these groups get political power in a modern democracy, in my opinion, of course. Now, another way that you can classify political parties is that they can be progressive, they're in favour of change, or you can classify them as regressive. They're in favour of going back to political ways of the past. And I think Vox could also be classified more as a regressive party, let's say, and not so progressive. And what I mean by that is that, for example, when it comes to gay and lesbian rights, Vox wants to remove all of the progress that has been made with regard to those rights over the last decade or so here in Spain. They're also anti-illegal immigration. They don't want people coming into the country illegally. They want to try to regulate immigration if that is possible. Don't know how, because nobody seems to have been able to do it till now. They're also very pro-Catholic, very pro-tradition. So that's something that they are also in favour of, Catholic traditions. And they're also pro-bullfighting and pro-hunting. So they are on that right side of the right here in Spain. And that is what leads people to say that they are, as I said before, extreme, hard, or far right. You can use any one of those words, in my opinion, to classify Vox. But anyway, that's up for you to decide. Now I'm going to wrap the video up here because I'm nearly home. So questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Join in the debate. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.